All right, I'm going to give you guys a preview of my 3 fun vehicles and maybe a couple of my hobbies, just to show you guys what you can kind of get a taste of from this channel. Do a lot of DIY. Everything I do is DIY. Very rarely do I pay anybody else to do anything. And yeah, anywho, so my first car or vehicle is going to be the 2006 Yamaha FZ6. Sorry, I was looking for my key. Naked bike. It originally had all the fairings and stuff, but it's been converted to naked style. Quick little over glance. It's got 44,000 miles on it. I just got it a month ago. Just put the headlight on it, got it legal. And I just did a valve job on the motor too. But yeah, it's a good bike. Stock muffler. That might change. We'll see. I gotta move this cluster because it makes me a little bit crazy. I'm gonna give you guys a cold start of each vehicle too, because cold starts are fun. Love this thing. Looking forward to riding this next year. I do have a GoPro, so there will be some riding videos of this also. But yeah, that's a new adventure for me. I'm going to move on to my next vehicle, which is a 2001 TDI Volkswagen diesel swapped XJ Cherokee. That was a mouthful. Basically, I live where it gets really cold and snowy. It also gets really hot, and I need to be able to tow stuff and lumber and whatnot for my hobbies. So basically what ended up happening was I had a Civic. It lasted quite a while. Ended up selling it. Decided to get a Wrangler. The Wrangler was cool, but it was like a JK Wrangler, one of the newer ones. Very expensive, horrible fuel economy. It just wasn't my thing. So I decided XJs were the way to go. So I went ahead and got a 96 right-hand drive XJ that was basically rotting in someone's driveway. It had no floorboards. Bought it, fixed it up, got it running, drove it for about a year. Sold it for a pretty good profit, and with the of building this. Now, the way that it went was I actually got this motor first out of a 2006 Volkswagen Passat wagon. So this is the BHW Volkswagen TDI engine. It has a billet stage 2 cam because the cam's wearing these things. It has a deleted balance shaft module, which I regret a little bit, but it's really reliable because you don't have to worry about it going out because it drives the oil pump, blah, blah, blah. It has an aftermarket oil pan. Oh, which you can kind of see. Yep, there it is. And an aftermarket oil pump also. A little bit of other odds and ends like my offset bracket for my alternator and power steering pump and whatnot. I got this goofy front mount, engine mount. It was just what I could fit in here. I can get more in depth later on with this thing, but it's also got a Rusty's 4.5-inch lift kit, which turns out to be closer to 5-inch lift. The entire underside of this vehicle is undercoated with chassis saver. I like it a lot. It did wonders for it. This vehicle was purchased from someone in Indiana, and the guy lived near a military base. This was kind of his thrash mobile, even though it was honestly one of the nicer Cherokees sitting around. But it had a blown up motor. He blew the head gasket and decided not to fix it. So I actually drove up there with my right-hand drive Cherokee the day before I sold it and used a tow bar and pulled this thing home to stuff this TDI motor in. I completed this project in under 3.5 months. I worked night and day, anytime that I could spare, before work, after work, on the weekends. It was nonstop. It was crazy. I've never put so much effort into something my whole life, but I needed that vehicle for the rain because I was daily driving this RB swapped Nissan 300ZX. Was a TT, RB swapped. We'll get to this in a minute. But as you can imagine, 500 horsepower turbo on rain is not the best thing. So had to finish this, long story short, and yeah, let's give you a little cold. So this thing starts immediately, and I did just drive it, so it's not really going to be a cold start. It's a cool start. I'll explain that in a minute. So this has a liquid cooled intercooler down in there, and the liquid cooling radiators are mounted in front of the actual radiator, which, yes, I did that on purpose. I wanted them pre-radiator and to block a little bit of airflow from the radiator because these motors have trouble heating up in the winter, and the E-fans, which are spouls, never come on in the summer. So, anywho, that screen that you saw in here can actually hook you guys up with this if anybody's looking for a TDI swap transmission controller. This is the automatic AW4 transmission. My buddy Benjamin built this transmission controller. It uses an Arduino with his program and his hardware, and we kind of collabed a little bit on this to get it working on here, but it was mostly him. I built this switch panel, so you got downshift, upshift, TC lock, and then you can downshift all the way to 1. I need to put the new software update on the TC lock thing, but this actually displays when your transmission controller is locked or unlocked. Great thing. I use it all the time, and if I ever need to, I can turn this off with this switch, and I can put it back into automatic mode so the transmission shifts on its own. Really cool setup. Ben's a great guy. I've been more than happy to link you guys over to him to talk about a setup for this. I know that that's a really big struggle for people when they're TDI swapping and they want to keep the AW4 because the shift points just aren't exactly what you want for fuel efficiency. I do get 30 miles a gallon out of this thing, and I do intend to do a lot more to this. I'd like to fix the dent on the door. I'd like to get a front bumper, a rear bumper, a roof rack so I can have downward lighting. I got a little bit of transfer case work to do. That's more than enough to keep you guys entertained on that. Let's get to the fun one. All right, RB swap Nissan 300ZX 1990. This project's 3 years old. This vehicle has been driven from here all the way to Tampa, Florida to go to Cletus's Freedom Factory one time, and it was less than a year into the build. The backstory on this is I love Nissan Zs. I plan to get a 370Z in the near future. Hopefully, maybe, I don't know. Other projects are pending in front of it. But basically, I bought this as a TT because I've had two 370s prior, and I wanted something that I could make into something really unique. I didn't just want another 370Z. So I decided to do this because I like GTRs also. This is a Series 2 RB25, and it has everything except for headwork. We can just leave it at that if you want. It's got a CX Racing aluminum rear sump oil pan, billet, can't remember, spool, yeah, billet spool oil pump gears. It's got a V-mount CX radiator kit with a little bit of my own modifications. It's got equal length header, Garrett GTX 3076R Gen 2 Turbo. It's got a tile blow-off valve. It's got a tile wastegate that's open dump, by the way. This is a 3-inch back exhaust that is Valvetronic. And what I mean by that is I can make this car either straight piped or muffled, which is pretty cool. You don't really notice it as much in the cab of the car unless you're cruising on the highway, but you really notice it outside of the car because you lose that throatiness. But it's fun driving muffled because it's kind of got the sleeper look going for it. It's got some dents on the hood and the peeling paint and the fading paint. So people see it, they're like, you know, it's an old Jap car. And then they hear the turbo and they're like, uh-oh. Plus, even with the muffler shut, when you get into boost, the wastegate cracks open and you get that throaty open noise reverberating off of the ground all around the car. So, good car. I will try to cold start this. I accidentally left my inverter on and killed the battery, so I threw it on here before I started this video. And it looks like it's still taking 25 amps. So I actually don't know if this is going to start, but we'll try anyway. Got a cool 3-in-1 AEM gauge. It's got a Haltech 2500 Elite ECU. Mounted nice and neat in the glove box. All the electronic controls are under the floorboard. It's a minty setup. Our volts, we should be able to start. Let's try it. This thing usually takes 2 cranks because it's an E85 car in the winter. That's 1. Oh, that's 2. It'll start on 3. You probably heard a little bit of serpentine belt squeaking starting there. This belt's pretty stretched. I need to replace it. I got an upgraded belt coming in the mail. But yeah, I can give you guys a really good overview of this in a personal video. It really deserves its own video. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of custom stuff and stuff being figured out with this thing when I built it. So it honestly really deserves its own video. So does the Jeep. So I'm probably getting a little bit too in-depth with this stuff, but we'll move on to another hobby. This is my 300-gallon in-wall aquarium that's in my basement. It's got a little bit of algae growth going on, but what tank doesn't? I keep up with this tank more like a pond. I don't expect it to be perfectly clean all the time. I just expect healthy fish. Currently, I only have 3 angels and 3 discus in this tank. And you can tell they kind of come up to me because they know where the food comes from. This tank is 2 years old. It was a marine land tank that was in someone's basement, and it popped the seal on them. So I completely took it apart and resealed it with industrial grade adhesive silicone in the corners, and it's been set up for 2 years on my custom stand without a problem. I'll give you a little walk around behind. This is in my laundry utility closet, so you'll have to forgive me. Let me get this stuff out of here. Rah. All right, so it is 6 foot long, 3 foot deep, 2 foot tall. Total of 300 gallons in display water. I had a lot of automation going on with this, but I kind of narrowed it down. Basically, you got the main tank, you got 2 overflows, and then you've got my sump system that needs some love. Goes through a filter sock, goes through basically a filter floss area. I plan to make this into like a plant area where it can extract some nutrients out of the water, and then that's actually K2 moving bed filtration that's not moving. I just need to fix the pump. But what's cool with this is the water changes that are on this happen automatically 3 times a week from this barrel. Basically, I have a light timer. It turns this pump on, and then I have a float in here that comes off of the main water. And whenever this changes the water, it drops the float, and then I have a ball valve that has this fill this really slowly, so it has time to pump all of the dechlorinated water out of the barrel and into the main tank through that line. You might hear my cat meowing at me. The excess water overflows through this pipe along the wall and into the floor drain. Basically, this is a dilution setup because I plan to have a lot of discus, and discus don't like really quick changes in water, they like it gradual and really clean. So we have a dilution system set up on this. My next setup, yes, hello kitten. The next setup, this is a little scraggly right now. It needs to be cleaned up, and I'm really sad that this is all that I have to show for this, but this is the hobby that started it all. These are carnivorous plants, and you know, I would really like to have more than what I have, but this is just what I have room for right now. I'm hoping that within the next year I can start building my greenhouse, and I'll take you guys around outside to show you. But basically, there's a really famous quote that I give people all the time, and sorry, my cat will just not stop. There's a quote that comes from this hobby, and it's, when life doesn't give you fertilizer, eat flies. And that basically is because these plants evolved to collect their own nutrients, right? So this is a pitcher, which is basically a trap that this plant has evolved to produce. And basically the soil that these guys grow in is nutrient deficient, and plants need nutrients just like anything else to be able to grow. So what they do is they figured out how to catch bugs. They basically land on the lip, they fall in, and there's fluid. You can see it shining in the bottom of the pitcher. This one's actually quite full, which is interesting. This plant is called a Nepenthes robcantlii. The robcantlii it's debated if it's a hybrid or a species, but it's called King of Hearts, Queen of Spades, and the theory is that it was crossed with truncata, which is another species. This is a baby. They get really big, and blah, blah, blah. Anywho, that's carnivorous plants for you. They all have their own mechanisms for catching bugs. Nepenthes, which are these bigger plants, all produce their own different type of trap, and they hang off of these vines that produce leaves and then a tendril. And this is basically just an inflated tendril. And this one's producing lots of pictures for me right now. And you can see the sticky sap that these guys produce, and they all have fluid down in the bottom of them. Pretty cool plants. Again, this is the hobby that started it all. I probably started growing these when I was like 10 years old. A lot of these traps are looking kind of sad. There's also sundews. This is a really big sundew, and you can see the stickiness on the leaves, and this thing actually produces a glue on the leaves that is what traps the bugs. Let me see if I get you a good little close-up here. Yep, you can see what I'm talking about. And this is the most brutal on the bugs because, you know, they want nectar and sugar and stuff. So they produce this, they land on it, they get stuck and basically burn. It's really pretty brutal, these guys. But I have some little baby sundews starting in here. These are Nepenthes seeds. These guys, different type. Actually, that's a lie. These are Nepenthes truncatas, so they'll turn into this in a year or two. And then this, after 5 years, produces traps that are 18 inches tall. Pretty cool. I dig this. I'll probably have some dedicated videos to these too. Another hobby I have. This is an electric vehicle. It's an electric skateboard, actually, mountain board. This is completely custom built by me. I bought the components like the trucks that the motors mount on, and I bought the gearboxes because they're actually available now. But I designed and 3D printed the boxes, the battery boxes. I made the skid plate on the bottom, and this whole deck is actually super flexible, and the skid plates move along top of the battery boxes because I wanted full movement out of it. It's got a, let's see if I can kick this thing on. It's got a headlight that's ridiculously bright. It's got underglow, which I can't remember which switch, there it is. Yes, it can change colors. This actually had liquid cooling on it for a while. That went in here and came out here, and it went to a radiator that hung off the back. But it's actually a lot more efficient than I expected for it to be, so there's not a whole lot of heat production. This thing goes 40, 35 miles an hour, depending on charge. And I've gotten 45-mile ranges out of it with a little bit of power left in it too. The battery pack is 18650 lithium ion cells. And like I said, this is all custom. I was offering this stuff for sale if you were trying to build these, but you know, this is kind of what it's come to at this point. Here, I'll power it up for you. This is a vehicle, and I said I'd turn them on for you. If an electric vehicle could have a cold start, this is it. Oh, I just remembered my remote is dead. Here, 1 second. Yeah, we'll get to that another time. I can't find the charger. It's just a USB plug, but it's that old school micro USB. This deserves a whole video of its own too. I have lots of pictures and videos from when I was building it. If anybody's interested, I need comments. I need to know what you want to see, what you want to hear about. This channel is all about you guys. I get plenty of enjoyment out of doing this stuff. I like looking back at my documentation of what I've done on these projects over time, but I really want to see other people enjoy this. There's a lot of people out there that just sit and they don't really get a whole lot of what it's really like to build stuff and do cool things. So I basically just wanted to, I want to bring the things that I love to you guys, and I like when other people on YouTube do that for people. I don't really get anything out of this. I'm never going to get monetized. This is purely just fun for me. So I want to really show you guys around. I want to tell you guys more about things that I know, and I want to be a resource for you. I want to go on cool adventures. I mean, on this channel, you can see anything from automotive work to 3D printing to car stuff to fish tank stuff. You might even see me building a greenhouse here soon if I'm lucky. That reminds me, let me show you where I want my greenhouse to go. So it's really foggy outside, so you're going to see stuff floating in front of the camera. But this is the side of my house. Man, it looks like it's snowing. Jeez. Let me turn the light off for a sec. Yeah, that's not bad. This is where I want the greenhouse to go. This is the side of my house. I live off of this steep hill. I have a 10-foot concrete pour foundation on this house. And basically what that means, since this is a walkout basement house, the house is 27 foot long. So across 27 foot, we go from ground level to ground level, and it's a 10-foot drop. Now, south is that direction. This is woods, and it's kind of creepy when it's dark. But my goal when I bought this house was to, I got to go back, get the light on, was to turn this into a greenhouse. Now, this stake here to that corner is 10 foot, believe it or not. I measured it out. And my goal is to have a 10 foot by 27 or so foot deck that I'm going to build on the side of the house here, and it'll come all the way out to there, and then yeah, I'll build a greenhouse on top. Might put some storage underneath, hopefully do some geothermal cooling if I can manage it. But currently I need to buy the property that's next to me, and just because I don't want anybody to build over there, and I need to get the permits and stuff approved to build the greenhouse. I also need a little bit of cash flow. So this might be a slower moving project, but this is definitely a project that you guys will probably see me working on this channel. Yeah, let me know what you guys want to hear about. I do all sorts of cool stuff: electronics, fish tanks, cars, bikes, house stuff, greenhouse stuff. List goes on. So tell me what you guys want to hear about, what you want to see more, and whatever I get suggestions for, the next video you see out of me will be me getting really in-depth on whatever it is that you guys have to ask me about. So just hit me up. I hate to be that guy, but like and subscribe, pump me up, help me get out to more people. Let's get a cool little community going on here. I know that there's a lot of us out there that do lots of random stuff. So yeah, stick around. All right, I'm going to give you guys a preview of my 3 fun vehicles and maybe a couple of my hobbies, just to show you guys what you can kind of get a taste of from this channel. Do a lot of DIY. Everything I do is DIY. Very rarely do I pay anybody else to do anything. And yeah, anywho, so